What if I told you one single explosion released radioactive contamination that affected millions of lives and completely rewrote the future of nuclear safety forever? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring the true story of Chernobyl. We're going to dive right into the historical record to understand exactly how this catastrophic event unfolded. We'll break down the timeline, the unbelievable human sacrifices, and the lasting legacy of one of the most studied industrial disasters in human history. So let's get into it.
To truly grasp the sheer magnitude of this event, we really need to put ourselves in the shoes of the people who were living there. Picture this. It happened in the middle of the night. Most people were completely tucked away in their beds, fast asleep. The world was quiet. Literally no one imagined that one of history's absolute worst nuclear accidents had just begun right in their own backyard. The suddenness of how a peaceful night turned into a global crisis, well, that's exactly what makes this story so incredibly compelling to study.
Part 1. The Midnight Explosion.
So, our story begins at Ground Zero, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, located near the city of Pripyat, in what is now Ukraine. It's April 26, 1986. Late at night, engineers are conducting what is, ironically enough, supposed to be a routine safety test on Reactor No. 4. But moments later, a deadly combination of underlying reactor design flaws and immediate operator mistakes causes the reactor to become highly unstable. Things deteriorate incredibly fast. Within seconds, powerful explosions completely destroy the reactor building. A massive fire breaks out, sending a huge plume of dangerous radioactive material high up into the atmosphere. In the blink of an eye, a test meant to ensure safety caused the ultimate disaster.
Part 2. An invisible, silent threat. Following the blast, the immediate aftermath was pure chaos, mainly because of a truly terrifying reality, a total lack of awareness. At first, a lot of the on-site workers and nearby residents had absolutely no idea how dangerous the situation really was. When we think of a nuclear disaster, our minds usually jump straight to that Hollywood expectation, right? A giant, terrifying mushroom cloud and visible destruction everywhere. But the reality at Chernobyl was entirely different. There was no giant mushroom cloud. The true threat, the radiation, was completely invisible. It couldn't be seen, smelled, or tasted. And that silent, invisible nature, that made it infinitely more dangerous, because human senses simply couldn't warn anyone of the extreme peril they were in.
And because the danger was totally invisible, the first responders had no idea what they were walking into. Firefighters rushed directly to the scene, completely unaware that they were being exposed to extremely high, lethal levels of radiation. Their heroic sacrifice here is absolutely crucial to remember. These brave individuals worked tirelessly, just heroically, to stop the fire from spreading to the neighboring intact reactors. Without their immediate selfless actions, an even greater catastrophe would have undoubtedly happened.
Part 3. Pripyat becomes a ghost city.
Now, while the firefighters battled the blaze at the plant, just down the road was the city of Pripyat. This was a place built specifically for the plant workers and their families. 50,000. That was the population of Pripyat at the time. 50,000 men, women, and children. The dramatic irony here is just absolutely heartbreaking. Because the threat was invisible, these 50,000 residents just continued their normal daily lives for hours and hours after the explosion.
The tragedy for these civilians unfolded in agonizing steps. Step 1. The morning after the explosion, normal life simply continues. Kids actually went to school, people went to work, families were out walking through the streets, breathing in the air. Step 2. Only much later do the authorities finally realize the severity of this invisible threat and begin evacuating the city. Step 3. To keep panic down, residents are told to pack lightly because they'll return in just a few days. But Step 4 is the most tragic of all. Most of those people never came back. In an instant, Pripyat was permanently transformed into a ghost city.
Part 4. The Sacrifice of Liquidators.
Now, the scope of this disaster didn't stop at the city limits of Pripyat. It soon pushed outward, demanding a massive, unprecedented human effort to contain the fallout. As the wind blew, the radioactive cloud spread way beyond Ukraine's borders, carrying this invisible threat to Belarus, Russia, and eventually across large parts of Europe. In fact, other countries actually began detecting highly unusual radiation levels before the full scale of the accident was even officially announced to the public. This international spread is what finally shocked the world into realizing exactly what had happened.
To combat a disaster of this immense scale, a massive, incredibly diverse workforce had to be rapidly assembled. These people became known as the Liquidators. Now, this group wasn't just one type of worker. It was made up of thousands of emergency responders, engineers, miners, soldiers, and some incredibly brave volunteers. They were all sent directly into the disaster zone with one singular mission: contain the accident at all costs.
These liquidator operations were grueling.
I mean, they physically removed highly dangerous radioactive debris. They worked to build massive protective structures around the damaged reactor to stop further leaks. And they did all of this while working under extremely difficult, literally life-threatening conditions. By stepping into that toxic environment, many of these liquidators faced very serious long-term health risks. Basically, they traded their own long-term health to help reduce the danger for the rest of the world.
Part 5. Lessons for the future.
So as we pivot to the present day, we have to look at the long-term ecological and industrial legacy of this horrific explosion. More than 3 decades later, scientists are still studying the ongoing effects of the accident. And, the ecological results are truly fascinating. Large areas around the reactor were cordoned off into an exclusion zone where public access remains strictly restricted to this day. But because humans left, nature changed in some highly unexpected ways. We now see this stark contrast. On one side, you have decaying, abandoned human buildings, and right alongside them, you have thriving wildlife. With very few people living in the zone, a ton of wild animals have entirely reclaimed the area. It makes it a highly unusual, almost surreal environment today.
But beyond the environment, the disaster also fundamentally changed human industry. The lessons learned from Chernobyl directly continue to influence how nuclear power plants are designed and operated today. Globally, countries drastically strengthened their reactor safety standards. Emergency planning was vastly improved to ensure people are warned way faster. And crucially, international cooperation on nuclear safety increased, finally recognizing that a nuclear disaster in one country can easily spread to others.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from this explainer? Chernobyl remains one of the most studied industrial disasters in history, and it serves as a permanent, glaring reminder. Advanced technology brings enormous benefits to society, for sure, but it also carries great, immense responsibility. A single technological mistake, a flawed design combined with human error, can have disastrous consequences that literally last for generations.
The story of Chernobyl is not merely about an explosion in a power plant. It's a profound story of courage, of human sacrifice, of science, and the critical importance of learning from the past. Because history doesn't only remember the disasters, it remembers the vital lessons they teach humanity. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. As our technology continues to advance faster than ever, will humanity truly remember the lessons taught by its past disasters? Something to think about. If you enjoy educational documentaries, history, science, and true stories, subscribe for more untold stories that change the world forever.